Alright, so fair warning, still a little bit sick from last week if you're watching this in order. So anyway, not really that big of a deal. Not much of a finale for this season. Not that it really needed to be anything extravagant, you know, it didn't need to be like season 4, where it ended off like with a really climactic fight, and I don't really think that this season really needed to end it off with something like that. It needed to end it off with something pretty massive, though. It needed to end with something that was going to change the scope of the story moving forward. And basically what we knew from what we were told, essentially, both the audience and the main characters, was that All For One was going to be taking full control of Shigaraki's body, and his development as the vessel for All For One would be completed in 2 months. Since the Tartarus incident, it had already been a full month since that had actually happened, so they only had another month's time before they could actually go and stop Shigaraki and All For One, and return everything back the way it was. And essentially the information that we learned at the very end of the episode is that Stain, of all people, the hero killer, who even he himself said had killed over 40 heroes, he actually managed to be able to grab some information that was actually very pivotal and very important. And that's because through something very special and specific towards All For One, and even One For All to a certain extent. So something that we noticed earlier on when Midoriya was in the hospital was that when All Might was very close to Midoriya, he was still able to feel himself in One For All inside of Midoriya, as he was having a conversation with the previous vestiges, the previous wielders. He could feel himself inside of One For All that was inside of Midoriya, which is, very strange, but that's how they were always, truly interconnected with one another. To a certain extent, or even a greater extent, Shigaraki and All For One have the exact same thing, because Shigaraki is supposed to be the next vessel and basically going to be the next All For One. But in this case, All For One's going to take full control over Shigaraki's body. But the thing that was very strange was that they were able to essentially communicate with one another through radio waves. And the systems within Tartarus were actually able to pick up these radio waves, and it almost seemed like that they were having a conversation with one another. Or they could tell what All For One was essentially saying through the radio waves that he had Shigaraki use when he had his body in full possession. Not full possession, but in partial possession. And they analyzed the data, and they essentially figured out that instead of having 2 months worth of time, and only having a month remaining, they actually only have 3 days left. So when the next season comes around, which they obviously confirmed at the very end that they are going to be returning for a 7th season, we're essentially going to be starting back basically immediately after the end of this season, which ends with Midoriya pretty much back with class 1A at the dorms. He gets a bath, which they had a pretty comedic scene at the very beginning of the episode, and that's all of them trying to give him a bath, and are trying to make him more clean. They talk with him, he's able to finally get some sleep, and Midoriya finally gets something that he really desperately needed, and he's finally surrounded by a bunch of people who genuinely very care about him. They care about him a lot, and he's finally home. And now he's finally surrounded by something that he really needed, which was a support group that was willing to do whatever they had to do in order to be able to help him stop this menace, right? Stop the menace that is the true great calamity and evil that is All For One. And I really appreciate that. And another thing I also appreciated that they did in the episode as well was Stain confronting All Might, right? Obviously, he doesn't really know that All Might is All Might, because the All Might that we know has been All Might all this time. But the All Might that he presented himself to the people of the public was the symbol of peace. And that's what Stain sees as the true All Might. So he doesn't want to believe him. But he doesn't have any murderous intent either. And that's because he still has the same thing where he doesn't want to kill All Might. He wants All Might to kill him. And another thing that I also found very strange as well is that Endeavor actually was surprised that they were being assisted in any sort of way by the hero killer, you know, and that's what Stain is. He is the hero killer. He was trying to kill other heroes, you know, back during season 2. But honestly, I'm not really surprised by this at all, you know, considering the fact that Stain admires heroes more than probably anyone else in the world, well, besides maybe Deku. But it's not really surprising that he was trying to actually help the heroes in this situation, because, you know, he admires All Might. He sees All Might as the true antithesis of what is the pinnacle hero, the true icon of what a hero is supposed to be. Someone who goes and helps other people selflessly, even if it starts to cost them their lives. And we actually see someone who still believes in that ideology, which was actually the very last person that All Might saved during their fight, during his last fight with All For One, which I thought was actually really interesting. So it makes sense that Stain decided to want to go ahead and help the heroes, because he believes that anyone that's like All Might deserves to be called a hero. The heroes who were retiring and were abandoning their positions of being called a pro hero, like I think Death Arms is one of them, and that other samurai guy, those are the heroes that Stain would have attempted to murder, right? Those are the guys that he would have went after, you know, back during season 2, if it wasn't for Midoriya, Todoroki, and Ida back in season 2. You know, if it wasn't for them stopping him, and of course Endeavor as well, towards the very end, obviously. So it made sense, right? It made sense for me why they did that. Obviously, he still wants All Might to kill him, which is going to be very interesting if we ever get to that, which I don't know if we ever will. I don't know. Anyways, this was just a very decent finale, right? Or not even really decent. It was actually very good, because it sets up a lot more of what's supposed to happen pretty much at the start of the next season. It's building up more of what's supposed to happen at the beginning of the next season. We're pretty much going straight into the next arc, but we have to wait until the next season comes out, which I don't know when that will be. It'll probably be around maybe November, December. If not, then probably around this time next year, probably a little earlier next year, maybe in like February or like early March, probably springtime next year. Which, you know, sucks. You know, it sucks to have to wait for another season, because I was really enjoying the season. To really, like cap off the video, I really want to talk about how I really, really love this season. The season really did surprise me, because going into it, I was not having any sort of expectations as to what to anticipate, because I didn't read anything from the manga at that time, when it first came out, and I was like off the heels of season 5, which I've made it pretty apparent at this point with past videos reviewing episodes of My Hero Academia season 6, and also my YouTube short ranking all of the seasons. I didn't really like season 5, right? I thought season 5 was actually pretty underwhelming, and I thought the whole like My Villain Academia arc was handled pretty poorly in the anime. You know, it wasn't nearly as good as it should have been. It was completely underwhelming. It was not what I wanted to see. They didn't handle it in the best way possible, but I think season 6 was actually a very good step forward, and I think it did a lot of things pretty well, right? Obviously, there are some pretty stark differences from the manga and the anime, as there are always going to be stark differences, but I think they adapted it very well in the anime, and I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun watching the season. I think it just did a way better job handling a lot of what it was trying to do, and I had a lot of fun, right? And it's, like I said, it sucks that we're gonna have to wait until the next season comes out, whenever that is. You know, like I said, hopefully maybe like later this year in like November, December. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about season 6. Really good. Like, well, probably one of my favorite seasons. Probably behind season 2. Yeah, it's like season 1, season 2 I love like the most, and then season 6 is probably right behind it. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Really enjoyed it. You know, now that it's all finished, maybe people who have been waiting to like binge it all at once will just go ahead and start doing that now, because it's done. I think the dub still has a few episodes to finish though, so if you're still watching the dub, then obviously you're still watching the dub. Anyways, that's besides the point. If you liked the video, be sure to leave a like, and if you want to see more, please be sure to subscribe. I'll see you guys next one. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. I hope you're all in good health, by the way, because like I said at the beginning, I'm still sick, which sucks. Anyways, I'll see you guys next one. I'm out. Peace.